Hey, well, this is a money show today. We're talking about basically, this whole situation with Aaron Hernandez has been running our background because it's just, I need money and more problems. That's what it comes down to. More money will alleviate some of my problems.
Alleviate some of the problems. That's right.
I don't get it.
It's when you're rich and you have the money, that's when you have the problems. But when you're poor and have to get the money, you're not going to have problems.
Well, you're not supposed to, which is why we're so, because listen, when we looked at the two twins, the Menendez brothers, who killed their parents and this is years ago.
Right.
They killed their parents for the insurance, but they got a little upset about, I think, some discipline their father did. Right. There's a difference between having everything at a young age and still not learning and being taught. Our parents wanted to give us more than what they had.
Right.
But what happened in some cases, parents that gave their kids everything and still never taught them anything.
But that's the thing, because they give them things.
Right, and see, and that's a whole different discussion too.
Right.
You're right, but like you said earlier, many of our children, too many, are spoiled, and that's what I was saying before the break. This is what I think happened. I think folks came up from the South and they were disciplined as kids, and they got up here to the North, to the city, and said, I'm not going to do to my kids what my parents done to me.
Right.
And now you have generations of kids who were never disciplined.
Right.
That have become grown-ups who don't know anything about discipline. Everybody, it's an excuse. It wasn't me. This, again, and I always refer to dealing with kids, because we do. The first question, when I ask why do you do that, the first thing they start off with is the word he, she, or they.
Right.
Why did you do that? Well,
he, right.
Why
she,
did you do that? She.
Yep.
They never start with, well, I.
Yeah.
No. So you've got a generation of people who were not taught discipline.
No. I had a child, we came off of a trip one day, and the parent was across the street, and the child went to go run across the street, and I said, no, you can't go over there. And the parent was telling me, yelling at me, and I'm trying to protect your child, and then the child comes the next day and tells me, my mother said, I don't have to listen to you.
Right.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The generation that's coming up, grandparents used to be in their 60s and 70s. Right.
That's another thing.
You see, these kids are growing up right now where their mothers are still young.
Right.
They're not matured.
Right.
So their responsibility doesn't pass certain things because they're having babies at 14 and 15 because they're still kids themselves.
Right.
So
and then the grandparents are younger too.
Yeah, so therefore when their child come about, they don't want to be parent, they want to be best friend.
Right.
So you teach one. If you see as a child see your mother being disrespectful, guess what?
You're gonna do.
That's what you're
going to do. Right.
Each one teach
Absolutely.
one. So therefore it's not only the kids' fault, because like I said, we're around kids are not we're not put on this earth just like that.
Well, kids can't raise themselves. We have to take responsibility for what we're instilling in our kids.
If you're a child yourself, raising a child, guess what's going to happen? The child going to end up having no manners.
Right.
They're going to be very, very disrespectful.
Right.
Then you want to end up fighting a lot of parents because of what the kids say something. I was always told, when you walk into a room, no matter who's there, you say hi to everybody.
That's correct.
That's right.
When grown folks are having conversation, you go one place and go play.
Correct.
Right.
You're in grown folks' conversation. That's
exactly.
right.
You don't see kids sitting down grown folks in their conversation.
Now
this is what you see.
No, you do. And I see somebody on the Facebook post, they asked the question, author Tony Bowers, hey Tony, how you doing? How do you fix it? Is it even possible?
That's what we need to get to.
That's the question. How do you fix it?
Yes.
And how do you fix it? Some of the things you were just talking about.
Over and over and over again.
How do you fix it? You need parents to be parents.
You need parents to be parents.
And be very, that's right, be very clear on who the parent, and like I said, not do as I say, do as I do, but the parent has to model.
You have to be an example.
You have to be an example.
Kids don't go for that, don't do what you see me doing. They're not going to go for that.
I went to a job doing in the cable, and the mother, right, grown woman, room was so messy that I couldn't move around.
Right.
I went to the daughter room. The mother had the nerve to tell the daughter to
go clean your room. Right. When you don't clean your own room. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I have parents that come in. The kid got suspended for cursing the teacher out. the parent comes in and curses
And
the kid
curse.
out.
Right.
Like,
I had a child throw a
do you-
chair
right.
at me, and the parent
And the
came and
parent-
said, "What did you do for my son to want to throw a
Right.
chair at you?"
But that's not what you're supposed to say.
That's not. See, that's so. Tony, to your
So let's
question,
get to some
parents need to be
solutions.
parents.
Yes.
That's
Now, in the community, right, where it's no longer where your neighbor can discipline your child, even an aunt or an uncle can discipline, and then there's a question also if a boyfriend is not the father of the mother's child, like, she has a new boyfriend. Can he discipline the child?
No.
But you're saying no.
I'm
But
gonna
if
say
it's an uncle, he can.
Uncle,
So it
yeah.
should.
You're right,
As long as you have the right man
Can I
in
say
your
something? Can I
life
say something?
that you can
I wouldn't.
trust.
The reason why I wouldn't condone that for the simple fact that
What did you mean? Tell us after.
they will because that's not their child.
Okay.
They will go extreme with it, with the discipline.
Uh.
No, the reason why I said because it's like some men don't like they like the mother but they don't like the child.
See that.
Well, see, you
can't
shouldn't
have
be
that.
with somebody.
Right.
Listen,
I'm with you.
listen what I'm saying.
No, you're right, but it shouldn't be that
Right.
way.
For the simple fact that a woman, certain woman, will put their relationship in front of their child.
Yes,
So
that's
therefore,
wrong too.
so therefore, if you tell me it's okay for me to beat you, I'm gonna beat that child like a stepchild. They're not going to have that emotional attached to it like a father would. Like as a father, you're not going to beat your child to where you're going to hurt your child, but a stranger going to beat your child because they don't have that emotional
They don't have the
attached.
feelings for you.
Well, they should though, and I'll tell you.
But
why.
But that's why I said don't do
right.
it. So if my what's name relationship and you got to discipline my child, let me explain to me why you have to discipline my child first and foremost. Right?
It comes down to you shouldn't be with somebody that
Yeah,
will discipline
right.
your child properly.
Properly.
And that's what I'm saying.
And you can be with somebody on the outside.
You
Just
got
don't
the
bring
right.
them into your child's life.
But you got
If
the
it's
right.
not a serious relationship and you like this person, don't bring them around your
But
kids.
listen, you have the right to check my child. You have the right to tell my child he's grounded or she's grounded. But let the hitting come from me.
It doesn't have to be hitting.
It
to
But
Right.
that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah,
have
it
no,
doesn't to
you
be
have the
hitting.
right to discipline. No, you have the right to discipline. But if anything physically, it has to be. Let me do it.
Yeah, I'm looking here again at some of
okay.
the posters coming up,
Okay.
and I see Emmanuel Capers had put on there in terms of what's happening is because of the age, especially for our younger parents coming through, it's messing up the family dynamics.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there's a
Yes.
lot of things
Yes.
that's messing up the
Yes.
family dynamics, and that's why we're where we are as well.
Mhm.
But in terms of what you just said about, first off, any woman worth her salt should not want to be with any man. If you with me, you with my kids.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's the first
That's
thing.
it.
If you with me,
That's it.
that's about because if you're not with my kids, you're not with me.
Yeah.
It should be something. Now, in
Right.
terms of the disciplining and all that, it may not be to the degree that a father might do, because of course the child's gonna feel like, well, you ain't my father, so you can't tell me nothing.
Mhm.
Right.
So, but
It's
at the
not gonna
same
be like
time,
that.
I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm with
and
your
you should
mother.
respect
But that's
the
what
adult.
I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Yeah, that's
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying. You have the right. You have the right to discipline. Just if you got to get physical, let me be the one that get physical with him or her. You get what I'm saying? I'm not gonna have my child disrespect what's name, my woman in the house. No,
Right.
I'm not gonna condone that.
Right.
Right.
And therefore, I wouldn't want no woman to have her child disrespect me because I
Right.
always say, if I'm in a
Right.
relationship and your
Right.
child
Right.
is disrespectful,
Right.
It
I'm
works
cool.
both ways. It works
I'm
both
cool.
ways.
I think there are, we have, what are the institutions right now that we are going to, or the institution of the church, right, has always been an institution where we go. Now, I don't know that the church is evolving to cover what's going on in 2017 right now
Because-
with our families, because there should be more classes, things offered for us to help get these, just like with the girls that are missing, that were missing in DC and Baltimore. There has to be set up in place where the community is starting to come together.
Ericka, you gonna fight a non-win battle with that. Those days stopped in the 90s and 80s.
But we can bring
Well,
it
I don't know.
back.
Yeah,
Why
see,
can't
see,
why do we say we can't?
It's too far gone. There's too
I
many.
don't
believe- I don't
Look,
agree with
there's
that.
too many
I don't
people
agree with that.
involved. There's too many
Because-
people that's involved in you raising your child
But
already.
this is the thing. If things once were, you can always return. And what it is that because of the results of what we see now, we have to step in and just like we're saying, we have to come up with solutions. We can't keep talking about the problem.
And I'll say, I'm gonna jump in here about
Right.
what she just said about the church. This is my thing, and thank God I do go to one.
Right.
I think churches and pastors and deacons and everybody else in the church and everybody in there need to keep it real.
Right,
They need to
right,
stop
right.
trying to sugarcoat things.
Right.
And I've said it on the air on my show before. It is beyond me that you can't talk about sex in church.
Right,
How did we get here?
right.
You got pastors got 10 and 15 kids. You got deacons that got 10 and 15. You got deaconess that got. How'd them kids get here? But yet you can't talk about sex in church.
And
You
the
need to be
deacon-
talking
and
about
the
it.
deacon is, and the deacon and what's name is sleeping with his,
And
with
see,
his sister
that's what I'm
in the
saying.
church.
Well,
So
we're not
you
gonna-
need, so they need to keep. Whenever, like Ericka just said, when you want to start, you need to come up with classes and
Right.
conferences that are relevant.
Right.
So issues that
Right.
we're dealing with and talking about needs to be talked about in the church. Because if
Yes.
you don't talk about it in the church, it's going to be talked about in the street, and the street is going to give you the wrong information.
Let me tell you something. Only with you will see black folks as black folks. You see a lot of black folks in go to church. Christmas, New Year's,
That's the-
Easter,
yeah,
and,
right,
and
right.
Christmas,
Right.
Majority of them is not going to church. Like I said, for that to take an effect, you have to make sure
Well,
that
the
on
doors
Sunday.
of the church have to
been
be open
open
at
and-
other
and-
times.
but
It can't just be
look,
open during the
But
church
you have
service.
to make sure. You have to make sure that if you're going to instill something in your child, you got to be willing to do the same thing.
Oh, for sure. I think the more relevant churches become, the more people will begin to come back to them.
Right.
So the more things like Ericka was just talking about in terms of if you're holding sessions on teenage pregnancy, if you're holding sessions on single motherhood, if you're holding sessions on suicide, if you're holding sessions on depression,
Right.
if you're holding sessions, the more churches are addressing needs and not just necessarily
Because
looking-
listen, if you want to do something in a community center, you have to pay for the room. You know, there's churches that have resources
Right.
that can allow these things to go on without people having to go to the town. Then you have to fill out a permit. You have to do all these things. If somebody's died yesterday, instead of everybody being on the corner with a sheet and alcohol bottles and writing on a sheet, which is so
R.I.P.,
annoying to
candles,
me, and
yes.
T-shirts,
Only the
and
good
all of
die
that,
young.
You know what I'm saying? All of that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I know,
You
because I see
what I mean? Because
I pass it every day.
and it's not impossible. We have to stop thinking that it's impossible.
Right.
We have to come up with creative ideas and carry them out.
Look, when I say something, when I explain to people how I was, I'm 37 years old. And when I explain to people how I was raising a certain method that I was raising, people look at me like, "Hey, those methods not working anymore. You're a chauvinist. You're a
Regardless
chauvinist.
of what,
you're a
there are
this, that,
still
and the
people.
third."
Listen, the
You know
people
what I
that were raised like that are the people that are still
So-
raising their kids like
right,
that. And their kids are raising their kids
That's
like
right.
that. So we still have a number of people who have these morals, principles, values, integrity. It's
Right.
still alive.
Right.
We've got to put the fire, put a spark, put some gas on it, light it up, so that we start in numbers. We bring it back to that. We're not dead. We're still here.
Yeah, but that's an uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle, but it
man.
does.
That's an
Hey,
uphill battle.
anything that's worth.
The question
Wow.
though becomes, what is the alternative? Because right now we're dying.
If we do nothing,
We're
right,
dying.
right.
So what's the alternative?
Like I said, the alternative is do the church thing. Get more involved in these young boys and young ladies.
That's just
They gotta
one.
keep it real.
That's
Yeah,
just
they
one.
gotta-
But that's just one alternative. That's not the
That's not
only
the
but
only
listen,
alternative.
but you know what I'm saying? This. Make sure you know where your kids are, because this is the thing. It's like, it doesn't make sense. I'm getting off of work at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and you're 14, 15-year-olds still on the street.
That's an issue too.
Right.
I mean,
That
that's
doesn't
part of
make sense
economics.
to me.
Right.
Like, they
That's-
always
But you
say-
know what I think it is, like I said, we're still here. So those of us who have those boundaries set in place to save our kids, we kind of don't want to mess with the other kids because of what they might influence on our kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in all actuality, it's going to affect all of us eventually.
One way or the other, eventually.
I can't-
So we
look.
need to start understanding that if we save other kids, we can possibly, even though our kids may not be, we may look at our kids and say they're on the line to destruction. We cannot see it. They still could be. But what I'm saying is we still are protecting our own by reaching out there, because these are their peers. These are their friends. If they're not allowed to come to our house, they're hanging with them outside anyway.
You know what I found? Again, going back to the keeping it real thing. With kids kids appreciate you keeping it real.
Yes,
with
they
them.
do.
And I'll
Yes,
tell you,
they
I'll give you an
do.
example. I had a child that, again, a mother came in there, she told me that the young man calls her a female dog. He doesn't say female dog, he says the actual word. The kid's 12-year-old calling her a BTITCH. Okay. So the same kid comes to me and says, Mr. Medley, Mr. or Miss such and such, meaning a teacher, just cursed at us. And so I looked at the little boy, I said, you call your mother a female dog, and you actually say the word, and you come to me talking about a teacher cursing at you? The kid couldn't say nothing. He turned around and walked away.
Right.
He couldn't debate that. But he
There you go.
appreciated the fact that I kept it real with him.
Yeah.
I didn't
Kids-
sugarcoat
kids
it.
not
I
supposed to be
didn't.
cursing at anyone.
Exactly.
Right.
He appreciated it. You know what? You're right. Yeah, you're right. I know I'm right. You call your mother a female dog, and you come to me
Man,
talking
I
about a
call
teacher
my
cursing.
mother like that,
Yeah.
man, I'd have been in coma right now.
You know what?
I wouldn't
Let's
have
see
been
if there's
here.
any comments. We
There-
have
we
about
would
10
not-
minutes left
I
of
would
the
have been in a
show.
coma.
Let's see if there's any other comments that we want to respond to. Thank you, all of you who are listening today. Our callers, our viewers.
Yeah, I'm looking again.
I'm
I
just,
see
you
Emmanuel
know-
said, we were talking about the church, and he says, too many churches and too many agendas. He said, see that? Too many agendas. Right. We need to come to a common agenda.
Yeah.
And that common
Right.
agenda has to be about saving lives. And of
Right.
course, on the spiritual side, you got the saving souls. But
Right.
certainly on the face of the earth, it's got to be about saving lives. And in my mind, the only way you do that is you address the issues.
One of the greatest things that I experienced is like when they decided that they wanted kids to wear a uniform. I used to wear a uniform back in
Right.
Jamaica.
Right.
Right, that was uniform all year round. That was our thing.
Okay.
Not when I was growing up, right? Kids was coming to school. You don't know who was the teacher, who was the student,
Right.
because you know they had on the
The
clothes
uniform,
and
that's
the
right.
makeup and all
Right,
that stuff.
right.
So that kind of, because kids wasn't coming to learn back then, it was coming for fashion. Now they put the uniform on. Now they weren't about
Correct.
education now.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
In other words, how the curriculum in school, some of the curriculum in school, they need to fix. That's
Oh,
first
definitely.
and foremost.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right. That's first
Because
and
for
foremost.
our kids to think that the only way they could be successful,
talking
yeah,
about
I mean,
that.
the only,
They need to fix in school, all right? And
Right.
also, parents need to take more what's name into their schoolwork, into the kids' schoolwork and school activity. Don't wait. You know what I'm saying? Don't wait till you get that phone
But,
call out
okay.
about your child for you to actually go
all right,
to school.
let's be realistic. We're talking about parents who, like we said, are younger, who don't have the parenting
Mhm.
skills. So it's really up to the professional people, and I really commend like a lot of the professional people in Patterson who will stay in Patterson and are trying to do things in the community. But I think that, you know, it's up to the people who have the tools to instill into the people who don't. We can't expect these things from the people that are the issue. We
true.
have to come together, the people who have some of the tools and some of the solutions and the means to change. It's everybody take a child.
Let me-
Everybody take a child to
let-
be a mentor to.
Yeah, let me ask you a
And-
question, right?
yeah.
Let me ask you a question, right? You walking down the street
Right.
and you hear, you probably pass a young child right next to you and probably brushed him by accident, and you turn around and call you all type on him. What would
Right.
you do?
I'm gonna ask him, why would you talk to me like that? I don't think that's proper for you to speak to me that way.
Mhm.
See, they don't expect that. They expect
Right.
me to.
Yell
They
and curse
expect
back.
me to be offended. You know, to put them down. You know, I don't deal with people that way. I deal with people from my heart because it's still a seed that's planted. They may not. They may be uncomfortable. They may not know how to react to it. They may still curse at me, but it's still a seed that I planted to
Right.
show them this
Right.
is how. You really should
That
react to
same
that.
example you just gave, all
Yeah.
right? Now you turn around to that kid and say, you know that wasn't right, right? You just do something like that, that throw the
Right,
kid off.
right.
But you know
Right.
what? I'm gonna tell you something. There's a flip side of that, because if they're around their peers,
Mhm.
you see a lot of times a child will act out in front
Oh,
of
it's
their
totally
peers.
different
For the
Right,
simple
alone
right,
versus
right,
in
Yeah,
front
right,
of
for
them.
the
It's
right,
totally
yeah.
different story.
for the simple fact that they gotta
They
put
gotta
the
be the man or
Right.
the woman.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then you get to altercation. Now you stand near a grown woman arguing with a child.
But
Right.
that's why you
But
don't
see,
argue
but-
with
but-
children.
but-
and you don't, and see, that's what
why
I
you
said. When
don't-
I said that, listen to the tone in my voice. It wasn't
Right,
like nasty.
right, right.
You just kind of, you know it wasn't right, and keep walking. they don't get the chance to.
Yeah, but
you ain't try to put them down. You ain't try to make them bad.
But kids, like I said, they don't. You know the ones that's great, destined for greatness, and the ones that's destined for failure.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes.
And
a lot of times. No,
you know the ones.
I mean, a lot of times. But I've been surprised by some of my students that they've, going on to do some, different things.
Today's Friday. It happened to me yesterday. My wife, we're at Macy's, and we come up on the counter. She's buying a birthday gift for her sister. And she comes up on the counter, and the kid behind the counter was a kid she taught. Mm-hmm. And she's not gets into dialogue and conversation and everything, and that's good to see. It's good because the kid's in college and working at Macy's or what have you. But it's a kid coming from a school and a neighborhood that you wouldn't think that would happen for.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
And you know what? A lot of times, not to toot our own horns, but a lot of times it's because of the teachers that were in their lives that inspired them, that they would go home and not necessarily receive that motivation.
Let me ask you a question.
Am I using the correct word?
I'm
trying to say it in a nice way.
The encouragement.
I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one that says this and does this. Like you walk, like I said, you walking down the street and you mind your business. Something happened with a child. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? In the back of your mind, you could tell that child's going to end up in one of few.
I got.
You know what I'm saying? Just by the reactions
I have a fourth grader now that looked like he was in New Jack City. He's hard and thug, fourth grade. Right. You could see it on his face, his body. He ran up at me the other day. I told him I wish you would.
He's a grown man.
What you call fourth grader?
Right.
He's in fourth grade. But and so the hope is, I truly hope that I hope it doesn't end there.
Right.
I hope somewhere along the way something
and
that we do or something that we say,
there
we'll
needs
turn
to
it
be
around.
more men in the school system. But just the fact that he has a black male principal can. At some point, when he's going to make a choice, at least it's kind of like we have to all be in place.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We don't know when it's gonna make a good impact. We don't always know which way it's gonna go, but we have a job to do. It's a responsibility that we have.
And the sad truth is that job. You're right. I'm with you.
Right,
I'm with you. That job really is supposed to be done in the home.
Right.
But the bottom line is not. And I just posted something on Facebook yesterday. It's like, it's sad. You have communities of people who are being pimped and don't have sense enough to know they're being pimped.
Right.
They don't have sense enough to know they're being pimped, but they are. There's a lot of money being made off failure.
That's right.
There's a lot of money being made off of these communities.
You go into
right.
I mean, and I'm not saying it against any other race or culture, but you don't see us behind the counter owning the stores that you don't see us, and we're putting our money there. Right. And then, we're not even being respected as a consumer in certain places. And it's unfortunate because we're spending our money there. You know what I mean? And I think, some of the people who are making some money, even if it's not the legal way, need to understand that they need to buy businesses and turn this over. Yeah. Because, that money can go to good.
That's a whole nother topic.
All these topics we do for Aaron. I know.
Listen, I'm just trying to write a list of things to do and try to check off some of these things.
But back to what we said.
Even like I said, even some of the people who are running these illegal businesses don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And they have family members who may have, quote unquote, made it, who won't even just try to call them and say, listen, why don't you go to this seminar and teaches you how to open a business? Or why don't
folks ain't doing that, man.
I don't know. They know that everybody is turning their back on them.
If some black individual would rather take you to the liquor store to get liquor than take you to a job
I'm going to tell you again. I'm going to say again. You got folks being pimped who don't realize they're being pimped. They don't have sense enough to know you're a part of the system that's pimping you.
Yes.
But I'm going to leave y'all alone. But you know what I'm saying? And y'all Americans, like I said, I always say, Americans, me as a...
Yeah, you're right.
Yes,
I agree with you.
Yes.
Majority of Americans, they have the privilege.
Yes.
These guys just don't know.
Yeah, you're right. And you're right, because
You guys just don't know.
But
no,
we
he's
can
right,
go
because
along.
if you go
You guys
into
are
third world
you guys are
countries
privileged.
that look at us and say, why can't they make it?
Yo,
Right,
you guys
right,
are you
that's
guys are
right.
privileged. You just don't know.
Well, that's the point. Mentally is where we're
And you know what?
we're
And we
lacking.
still can't get it together.
And still
Because
can't
see,
get
this
together.
goes full circle.
right.
If I sign a $40 million contract,
This is a good
you
note to end
do
on.
not have to worry about me killing
No.
nobody, stealing from
You ain't gotta
nobody.
even worry about me doing.
You
My
ain't-
name will not be mentioned at all.
No.
The only time my name mentioned is when I'm in the newspaper scoring a touchdown.
I think,
Exactly.
I think the moral to this story, though, is, whatever gifts we've all been given, we have the responsibility to use them where we are.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So to some of our students and to some of the people that see us, we are rich to them.
Yes.
You know
Oh,
what I mean?
For sure.
We don't.
For sure.
We may feel like we don't have much, or we know that we want more, but it's all relative.
Right.
You know what I'm
It
saying?
is.
So it's kind of like what you've been given, you can still be a blessing to somebody else based on that. So again, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to leave a little bit early today. I have to deal with my son who's he's sick
So
today.
you being a good mom.
Yeah,
All right. See,
so
that's what good moms do. That's right.
Yeah, so we're gonna cut it short, just a half an hour. We made it almost to 2:00. Thank you so much for
I
coming.
had a blast,
You're
as always.
always welcome here. This is your second home.
Oh,
Thank you guys for
and yeah.
viewing. And we'll be answering some of the comments on the page. Now that we're going off of live, you can put it on my page.
I'll send it to you as well.
Join us
So,
next week, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. at njwebradio.com. It's the Boss Lady Chronicles radio show. You guys have a blessed and prosperous, healthy weekend. All right.